What is your leadership philosophy?
My leadership philosophy. In other words, what makes a good leader? I think what you're asking me.
Correct.
Um, well, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of characteristics you can point to. But if I have to choose one or pick one characteristic, I would say that person comes into leadership with a philosophy of service. That the whole point of your leadership is to provide a service. Um, I think often you have people who we see as leaders or who assume leadership roles for the sake of leadership rather than the sake of serving that organization or the people that organization involves. I think if you begin with that attitude of service, then it carries on to other members of the organization, and they're also willing to serve. For example, at times as a leader, if what is necessary is to be outspoken, to be in the front, to lead in that traditional way, then that's wonderful. You take up that role. But sometimes, what is necessary is for you to simply take a lesser role as a leader. And if you're willing to do those type of things, then I think you'll inspire others. If you're willing to, for example, let's say I'm a leader of a school and I'm willing to walk around the school and also pick up trash, you know, and people see me as the head of that organization, being willing to do that, does it inspire other members that perhaps have not as a prestigious role within that organization to do the same? You know, so true leadership is, I think, begins with that understanding that it's not an ego thing. It's about providing a service. If you want to serve, then I think that is the first characteristic that I would look for.
Okay. How would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style. Wow, I haven't thought about that one yet. My leadership style. I don't know that I have a leadership style. Um, what's a good word? Uh, Collaborative. I think that you have to try and build a collaboration or a consensus with people that are within your organization that you're trying to lead, right? Uh, Again, it goes back to the whole service thing that I'm talking about. It can't be just about what you want. You have to, in order to inspire people, you're going to have to really work with them collaboratively, and hopefully, come to some agreement as where we're going to take this organization.
What are some obstacles you've overcome throughout your life, and how would you advise others to overcome their own obstacles?
What are some obstacles that I've overcome in my life? Uh, hmm. Wow, I think it's probably quite similar to a lot of people's experiences in terms of obstacles. Um, there's always those financial obstacles. I think money obstacles are really one of the big things that we all deal with, whether we're talking about individually or we're talking about organizations. There's that thing that we have to figure out how we're going to pay for all of this. When I went to college, that was an obstacle that I had to overcome. Was how was I going to pay for it? When I decided I wanted to do a lot of traveling, how am I going to deal with it? Um, One way that I always dealt with things was by really evaluating what it is that I consider necessary. There's a lot of things, a lot of expenses that we consider necessary that aren't quite as necessary as we think they are. So willing to do things in order to persevere that other people wouldn't be willing to do. An example is, when I went to college, when I first got to San Francisco, I'd never been to San Francisco before, and I had absolutely nothing but a couple $100 in my pocket, and I didn't even have a place to live. So I knew that college was starting in a week, and I didn't have a place to live, nor did I have the money to pay for a place to live. So I was willing to get on a bus, wake up the next morning in San Francisco, and do whatever it took to figure it out. But I knew that I was going to go to college. I ended up sleeping at a Greyhound station for a week. I ended up living as a, I guess you could call me homeless. I didn't think of myself as homeless, to be honest with you. But in retrospect, people have said, "Oh, you were homeless." I said, "Okay, I guess I was homeless." But I didn't really have a place to live for several months. I just ended up, I would sleep wherever. I slept behind bushes sometimes and the buildings on campus. Eventually, I made friends with people, and they would. I started couch surfing around different friends, and people would sneak me into the dorms, and before you knew it, I was, you know, I had gotten through a semester and found a place to live. After that, I got into the dorms the second semester. So it's just the willingness to persevere, you know, to do whatever is necessary. I think perhaps a lot of people would have said, you know what, I'm going to wait and figure out this money situation or this living situation before I go up there. I'm not saying I recommend that, but those were my experiences.
Okay. Who is someone you look up to for their leadership role and why?
Leadership role. There's a lot of individuals in history. I'm gonna stick to history, but people that I look up to. The first name that just popped into my head right now is Susan B. Anthony. You know, oftentimes true leaders, people that are really willing to serve, that it's not about them, they struggle through their lives in hopes of accomplishing what it is that they're after, that they want to accomplish, and oftentimes you're not even going to receive recognition throughout your life. Susan B. Anthony, you think about what she did, taking part in the movement to bring about political equality for women, you know, a suffrage movement. By the time it culminated and women actually received the right to vote in 1920, she was already dead. You know, she never actually lived the benefits of her work, but that didn't stop her. I think on some level at some point she knew that, well, I'm not gonna see the fruits of the last 60 years, but it didn't stop her. It didn't stop her from inspiring a whole new generation of people that actually would see the fruits of her work. To me, when I think about it just as an individual and say, you know what, after 40 years, 50 years of working towards something, and it's not happening, can I honestly say that I would continue that good fight, or would I lose spirit? Would I lose that drive after 40, 50 years? Someone like Susan B. Anthony didn't lose that drive. She did it anyway. To me, that's remarkable. That's a remarkable leader.
Okay, thank you.
All right.